Montana greeted them with the scent of autumn. The dry pines along the highway stood silent, like guards at the border of another world. Through the SUV window, the landscape seemed frozen. The same curve, the same clearing, the same bending lines of forest. The silence grew thicker, as if the farther they drove, the less oxygen there was to breathe. "Are you sure this is the right address?" Rebecca asked, her eyes fixed on the map on her phone. Her voice was calm, but there was a tension behind it. "Josh, there's no signal here. We've been off the grid for an hour." "That's the point," her brother replied. He sat up front, headphones on, listening to voice notes. In his blue-tinted glasses and a jacket worn thin at the elbows, he looked like someone trying to stay invisible, even to himself. "The tour's called isolation, Beck. If there were Wi-Fi here, it wouldn't be a tour. It'd be a tourist trap." In the back seat, Marco sprawled across the entire row, tall, broad-shouldered, with an anchor tattoo on his arm. He tapped a rhythm on his flask with thick fingers. "Listen, you guys do what you want, but if there's no coffee and no roof at the end of this road, I'm out. I've had my share of weird trips." "You're a veteran," Taylor said, pressing herself into the seat. Her face was half hidden behind the camera aimed at the window. She'd been recording the road for hours. "I thought, this kind of stuff didn't scare you." "War has structure," Marco muttered. "This place feels too loose. We don't even know who's meeting us." "At least we know who won't find us," Josh smirked. "No socials, no maps, no real life. That's what a vacation is, right?" 4 hours later, near an old railway platform, the SUV turned off the main highway onto a dirt road. The GPS gave up completely. The trees grew denser, the sunlight dimmer. Branches scraped the roof like claws. Even the air seemed heavier. At last they stopped before a wooden arch. On a weathered sign above it, burned into the wood, were the words, TRANSITION 13. Down the hill stood several buildings, crooked but clean wooden cabins. Streetlights hung dark, no sound anywhere. When they stepped out of the car, the silence hit them like a physical force. Even the birds were gone. From one of the cabins he emerged. A tall, thin man in his 40s. Dark hair slicked back. He wore a gray coat and gloves. He didn't look at them so much as through them, measuring the distance between each of them. As he approached, he smiled slowly. "Welcome," he said. His voice was soft, almost velvety, but there was a low vibration underneath it. "I'm Silas. You've chosen an experience that will abandon you if you don't surrender to it completely." They exchanged glances. Taylor lifted her camera, but Silas gently touched her hand. "Photos and videos are allowed only before the first entry," he said. "After that, only memory. Though even that doesn't always last." He led them onto the grounds. The camp was a strange blend of a forgotten Boy Scout site and a private retreat. 5 cabins, 1 main hall, a canopy over a fire pit, and a lake. Murky, still, lifeless. The air smelled of wood dust, metal, and faintly of damp earth. Inside the main hall was a wide circle of stones. In the center, a wooden pedestal with a book resting on it. Around it, empty chairs. But the strangest thing of all were the masks hanging on the walls. Ceramic, cloth, carved from wood. Some with sealed mouths, others with hollow eyes. Each one gave the unsettling impression that someone was watching, not through the mask, but from within it. Silas turned to them and said, "Tomorrow the ritual begins. Tonight is your last day as the people you believe you are. In the morning, you'll choose a mask. And if the mask chooses you back, you'll finally learn who you truly are." Then he left, leaving them alone with the silence. The next morning, the fog hung thick, like moisture on a mirror. The trees outside seemed to vanish, swallowed by white cotton, and the camp looked like an island without shores. Josh was the first to step out of the cabin. Barefoot, wearing sweatpants, he stood staring at the stone circles near the hall. He looked detached, like someone studying his own dream, unsure if he'd actually woken up. "Did you even sleep?" Rebecca asked, stepping out after him. Her face was tense, not frightened but braced. She didn't yet know what to expect, but she could already tell this wasn't a normal retreat. "Listen, Josh paused, searching for words. "I don't want you to think I dragged you into some bullshit. It's just you, running again," she finished. "This time, into the fog, right?" He said nothing. They gathered in the main hall, where Silas was waiting with a cup of something herbal. The room looked different now. Candles in the corners, the masks taken off the walls and neatly arranged on a long table. There were 5 of them, even though there were only 4 participants. "Each mask is a trait," Silas said. "Not the one you show the world. The one you hide from yourself. Choose, or it will choose you." Marco snorted. "Another round of psychobabble?" Silas nodded slightly with a faint smile. Maybe, or maybe the key to survival. They stepped closer and began to choose. Josh reached for a mask with downcast eyes and streaks like dried tears. It seemed to tremble in the air. He clenched his jaw unconsciously, but took it. The mask of guilt. Rebecca chose a smooth, almost sterile mask. No mouth, no eyes. Just the shape of a face, like a copy of someone erased. The mask of control. Marco, half joking, grabbed the one with bulging eyes and a gaping mouth, a face frozen mid-scream. Silas tilted his head, watching him carefully, as if wondering whether the choice was truly his, the mask of fear. Taylor hesitated the longest, then chose the mask with closed eyes and mouth, but ears cut open. When she held it to her face, she swayed slightly, as if something deep inside her had stirred, the mask of the observer. One mask remained, ornate, with faint traces of gold, and letters scratched across its forehead. "I am." "Who's that one for?" Taylor asked. Silas smiled faintly. "Not for humans." On the table lay 4 sheets of paper, an agreement. "I enter by my own will. I expect no reward. I release control. I accept the transition. Silence is my language. Fear is my counsel." Rebecca hesitated. "Is this a legal document?" Silas nodded. "Something like that." Josh signed first, his hand trembling. Then Taylor. Then Marco. Rebecca was last. She signed without looking. They were told they could spend the afternoon freely, as long as they didn't leave the perimeter. On the camp map, the perimeter wasn't marked with lines, but with runes, burned into the wood at each corner of the grounds. Marco tried to step past one, and soon came back. "I'm not an idiot," he muttered. "I just stepped behind a tree, and I swear, I wasn't alone. Someone was there, not seen, not heard, but right beside me." I turned around, and the path was gone. A minute later, it was back. Like it moved. The group's emotions, Rebecca grew tense, her whole body shrinking slightly, as if bracing for a blow. She watched how everyone reacted, forcing herself to stay rational. Taylor kept recording. She spoke softly into her voice recorder. Spatial distortion. Silence too uniform. She was trying to stay objective, but the fear in her eyes betrayed her. Marco withdrew. No more jokes, no more talking. Something in him had switched to survival mode, that old military instinct resurfacing. Josh, on the other hand, felt almost euphoric. He'd been running from pain for years, and for the first time, he felt it opening inside him, raw and alive. He didn't understand what was happening, only that he had to keep going, whatever it cost. That evening, Silas gathered them by the fire. The coals glowed faintly, masks covered their faces. "You have crossed over," he said. There is no way back. Tomorrow, the first trial. One of you will enter, the others will observe. He turned to Rebecca. And we already know who goes first. Night before the ceremony, the temperature in the camp dropped without warning. Their breath turned to vapor, though the morning had been warm. The candles in the hall burned out faster than usual, as if the air itself had grown thicker, heavier. No sound echoed off the walls, only silence, swallowing every word. Rebecca didn't sleep. She sat on her cot, the mask resting on her knees. Outside, someone was walking, uncertain, slow. She didn't dare go out. By morning, Silas was already at the fire, in his hands. A cup of something dark and steaming. He stirred it slowly, as if he were boiling time itself. Today, he said, you'll learn what it means to look inward. He called for Rebecca. She stood up. It was hard to tell whether she was afraid, or if she simply understood there was no other choice. The walk will last 1 hour, he said. The rest of you will observe from outside. Your bodies will remain, your images will leave. But don't be afraid. Sometimes they return. Rebecca was led into one of the side cabins, one that had always been locked before. Inside it was empty, only mirrors lined the walls, and a single wooden chair stood in the center. Silas guided her in, and gestured to the chair. Take off the mask, look, while you still can. She removed it, looked, and didn't recognize herself. The mirrors showed different versions of her face, a child of 6, a weary woman, like a mother she'd never been, an older version, eyes burned out by time, and one face with completely unfamiliar features, but her eyes. Those eyes were full of terror. She turned away. The light in the room began to pulse, footsteps behind her, but no one was there. You're not in control, a voice said inside her head. You're just holding on while something else carries you. It was her voice, but it came from outside, like through a speaker. By the fire, Marco paced in circles. It's been an hour, he whispered. She should have been out by now. Taylor turned on her recorder. She caught a faint scratching, like something clawing at the wood from inside the hall. Josh said nothing. He stared at the ground. They won't tell us if something goes wrong, he said. They'll just call it part of the process. Taylor looked at him. You knew, didn't you? You felt it from the start. He nodded. The door of the ceremonial hall opened, but no one came out. Silas emerged later. His face showed something close to sympathy, but too controlled to be real. She's gone for a second cycle, he said softly. Not everyone returns on the first, Marco snapped. What the hell does that mean? Gone where? Silas met his gaze, quietly. She saw what you've all been avoiding, her emptiness. Marco lunged at him, but 2 assistants appeared from the shadows, men no one had seen before. They moved silently, as if they'd been there all along. Josh didn't intervene. He just watched the door. Inside he heard a whisper, his own voice. You were supposed to go first. That night, in the camp, Marco sat apart from the others, back to the wall, a knife carved from a branch in his hand. He was cutting something, slow, deliberate. Didn't look up. His lips moved quietly. She was stronger than any of us. If she didn't make it, we're not getting out. I don't sleep anymore. Someone's watching from inside my head. Taylor, she wrote in her journal. Day 3. The first participant, Rebecca, didn't return. Officially, she went deeper. Unofficially, no one knows. Josh is shutting down. Marco's ready to fight. I'm starting to think we weren't brought here to see something, but to break. If this is psychological training, it's too precise. If it's something more, then we're no longer tourists. We're subjects. Late that night, Taylor woke to a whisper. She opened her eyes. The room was dark. In the corner, movement. For a split second she saw a figure, a body's outline, a face without a mask. Rebecca's face. But the eyes, weren't hers. The flashlight flicked on, and the corner was empty. Josh sat up, pale. He saw Taylor was awake too. "Did you see it?" he asked. "No," she said quietly, "but I felt her watching." The camp woke in mist. The sky never cleared, even by noon. The fog only changed color, from gray to amber. The air smelled of burnt wood and ozone, as if lightning had struck somewhere nearby. Josh sat by the lake, the mask resting on his knees, trying to remember Rebecca's face. The memory kept slipping away, first her smile, then her voice, but every time he closed his eyes, it distorted, as though someone kept replacing the details. Taylor stepped out of the cabin, recorder in hand. Her fingers trembled, but she held on to it like it was the last proof that reality still existed. "She was screaming last night," she said quietly. "I heard it, through the wood." "Are you sure it was her?" Taylor looked up. "If it wasn't, how did it know my name?" Silas waited for them in the main hall. He stood beside the book on the pedestal, its pages shifting even though there was no draft. "You feel the emptiness," he said, looking at Josh. "But emptiness isn't absence. It's a mirror." "What did you do to her?" Josh demanded. "To whom?" "Rebecca." Silas tilted his head. "Are you sure you ever had a sister?" Marco stepped forward, his hands trembling. "Enough of this. Where are you hiding the people?" Silas approached slowly, his eyes reflecting like the surface of the lake. "We don't hide anything. We only show. You're the ones who always hide yourselves." He touched Marco's shoulder. Something warm spread across his skin, and a dark stain appeared on his shirt, like sweat or blood. Marco stumbled back, but Silas had already stepped away, as if nothing had happened. Later they found Marco at the lake. He stood knee-deep in the water, sleeves rolled up, talking to someone beneath the surface. Taylor screamed for him to come out, but he only turned his head and smiled. "She's there," he said. "She told me it's okay." "Who?" "Rebecca. She says not to interfere." When they tried to approach, Marco collapsed into the water. Josh jumped in after him. The lake was freezing, black as ink. His hands scraped the bottom. Nothing. Marco was gone, as if the ground beneath him had opened up. Taylor screamed his name until her voice broke. Silas watched from the shore, calm, almost sad. "Not everyone is ready to return," he said softly. "Sometimes the water accepts what the earth rejects." That evening, Josh found him in the chapel at the far edge of the camp. Dust-covered, empty of icons, but with a wooden cross hanging upside down from the ceiling. "You're insane," Josh said. "I'm a doctor," Silas replied. "I treat lies, not bodies. You came to me willingly. You knew you needed this trial." "I was looking for life." "No," Silas said. "You were looking for death, but one you could control. A death you could survive." "And what did you find?" "Your permission." Silas handed him a leather folder. On the first page, a photo of Josh and Rebecca as children, smiling on a beach. On the second, a newspaper clipping. "Girl killed in car accident. Brother responsible." Driver Josh Lynn admitted guilt, but the case was dismissed due to psychological condition. Josh sank to the floor. His heartbeat pounded in his temples. "You lied." "I lied about nothing," Silas said calmly. "You forgot. I only reminded you." Taylor found a computer in one of the rooms. On the monitor, folders labeled with dates and names, each one titled Tour Soul. There were 9 before Tumor 13. Inside, photos, videos, documents, people from different years, some of them staring directly into the camera, the same way Josh was staring into hers now. She realized that all the tours were staged experiments, and that only one person survived each. The survivor became the guide for the next group. A new message appeared on the screen. Taylor Hill, observer. Status, preparing for assignment. A rustling sound came from behind her. She turned. The door was locked. Josh burst into the hall where the book stood. His eyes were red, his hands shaking. "Where is she?" Silas looked up. "She's already found her place." "You killed them all." "No," Silas said. "They made their own choice." He stepped forward, holding out the mask. "Your guilt is your strength. If you put it on, you'll cross over. If you don't, you'll stay in the void." At that moment the candles flared to life. The flames grew taller, and shadows began to appear on the walls. 4 of them, then 5. The 5th moved on its own. It walked toward him. Rebecca's voice whispered softly, "Put it on, then we'll be together again." Josh gripped the mask, fell to his knees. His scream merged with the crackle of fire. And then, silence. When morning came, Silas sat alone in the hall. In front of him lay a new mask, smooth, unmarked, with a thin crack running down the center. He placed it on the pedestal, exhaled, and smiled, a small, unreadable smile. "If you made it all the way to the end, then you're exactly the kind of person I'm looking for. Hit that subscribe button. It really means a lot to me. I hope I can keep bringing you more stories, to make you smile, or maybe, to scare you."